Well, you said that you would rather Trump be president than Hillary Clinton.
That's not what I said.
That's not what you said?
No, what I said is, and I am not afraid of a Trump presidency. I would prefer Jill Stein to be president because that's who I'm voting for. My preference,
Independent.
Yeah, my preference isn't for Donald. I hope Donald Trump isn't president. I want Donald Trump to never be president. I don't know anybody on my side of the aisle that wants Donald Trump to be president.
Yeah.
But I think what's more important is building a long-term political movement. And to build a long-term political movement, we have to make short-term sacrifices. And it could mean a Donald Trump. I'm eyes wide open about the possibility of a Trump presidency. That's not my desired goal. I fully support, let me be very clear, I fully support strategic voting. If you're in a decidedly blue state, a decidedly red state, vote your conscience, right? If you're in Texas, vote. You can vote for your dog, you can vote for your puppy. Doesn't matter. Donald Trump gonna win. You in Georgia, you can vote for this camera stand. Don't matter. Donald Trump gonna win. You in California, doesn't matter who you vote for. You can vote for Prize, right? Doesn't matter. Hillary Clinton gonna win, right?
Okay.
But when you get to Nevada, when you get to Florida, when you get to Ohio, when you get to Virginia, when you get to Pennsylvania, now you have a contested election. That could be a time to strategically vote for the candidate who you want to win, right? So that's a very different argument than saying, vote your conscience and let the chips fall where they may. I understand the Supreme Court. I understand the value of having a radical movement with a Democrat in office versus a Republican. Let me say one more thing about that, though. I personally don't plan to do that. I registered in Pennsylvania, and I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton because I cannot morally reconcile voting for Hillary Clinton. Remember, I said vote your conscience.
Okay. And why is that? Why can't you morally vote for Hillary Clinton?
Let me ask you a question. I'll put it back on you for a second. If there were a candidate who believed that being gay was a sin, it was a crime, and they're all going to hell, right? Shared your politics on everything else, but believe that. Could you vote for them?
Probably not.
Right. So you have things that are a moral non-starter for you, right? Just by virtue of you doing or believing a certain thing, I can't vote for you. Even if you're the best choice for me, because if Hillary Clinton believed what I just said, she'd still be a better choice than Donald Trump. But you wouldn't vote for her because there's a moral non-starter. For me, killing innocent people abroad through predator drones is a moral non-starter. For me, that vicious occupation of Palestine by the state of Israel is a non-starter. For me, supporting the death penalty under any circumstances in this country, given our history, is a moral non-starter. And quite frankly, her advocacy for policies from the 90s, her advocacy for them are moral non-starters. Now, I could get past that if I felt like there was contrition and reflection and advancement. I'm not convinced that there is, but if there was, I could get past that. But there are moral non-starters for me for Hillary Clinton, and that is the reason why
So
I
you
can't
feel
do it.
that there should not be a death penalty at all?
No.
Under any circumstance?
Yeah, under any circumstance.
The Charleston shooter should not get the death penalty.
That would be, yeah, I'm saying under no circumstance. Any example you give, it'd still be no, because I'm saying under no circumstance.
I mean, I believe in the death penalty for certain situations.
Why?
Do I feel the death penalty exactly the way it works now? No. Do I believe the Charleston shooter deserves the death penalty?
Why does the
100%.
Charleston shooter deserve the death penalty?
The fact that this guy walked into a church of people that actually treated him kindly.
So wait,
so
let me push you on that.
Began to just kill people.
Let me push you on that. What if they were complete assholes to him and he killed them? Would you still want him to get the death penalty?
If they were completely innocent, yeah.
Okay. What if there were only 2 of them instead of 9? Would you still want them to get the death penalty?
Yeah.
Okay. What if there was 1 of them and he was a terrible person? Would you want the death penalty?
Well, I define a terrible person.
I don't know.
This is a great conversation, actually, because I've never actually explored it in this way. So let's keep going.
Because as I'm hearing you talk about it, it seems like your death penalty net is actually pretty wide, right? Because what people do is, this is what death penalty advocates do, right? They take the most extreme case, and they say, what if somebody ran in your house, raped and killed your whole family, set them on fire and left? I bet you want the death penalty then. And I'm like, well, yeah, I might want it, But I also don't feel like I'm at my most fair and rational, insane when somebody runs in and rapes and kills my whole family. Right? That might not be the best time for me to make public policy. So
right. I mean, well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't believe in nonviolence. You know, I do believe in an eye for an eye. I do believe that if you commit murder, you should walk into that situation knowing that you might get the death penalty, that you might die in the process. You know, if someone pulls out, you know, I mean, because you're a gun owner yourself, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm not nonviolent. Let me be clear. My opposition to the death penalty isn't that I feel like there's no appropriate time for violence. Let me be clear. My opposition to the death penalty is rooted in a few things. One, we get it wrong way too often. It's a technological argument, right? We swear people did it until we find out they didn't, right? And we've had too many cases where we were convinced somebody did it until they didn't do it, right? Except they're dead. So if you say, yeah, but the Charleston shooter, we have no doubt he did it, that's such a small number of people that we can't make public policy around that. The second thing is that I don't think, because usually this is circumstantial stuff, it's eyewitness stuff, which is normally flawed. There's all kinds of reasons, or it's testing, which we know doesn't work all the time. The second thing is, I don't think the state has the moral authority to kill its citizens. No nation that has executed this many Native Americans, that has allowed the Tuskegee experiment to happen, that has enslaved its own, that is built on the exploitation and enslavement of its own people, has the moral authority to decide who gets to live and who gets to die.
Okay.
And the third reason is it doesn't work. Because your point was you should go into any situation knowing that if you do this thing, this is going to happen. The implicit argument of that is that it will dissuade people from doing it, right? That if I knew I was going to get killed for this, maybe I won't kill somebody. But all the data, all the evidence, all the science throughout American history shows that the death penalty actually doesn't make people less likely to kill. In fact, there are states where there's a death penalty, murder rates are actually higher.
Okay. So someone breaks into your house.
Uh-huh.
And they're armed. Mm-hmm. And you see that they're in your house with a gun. Do you try to kill that person?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm defending myself.
So in a way, you're actually enacting the death penalty on this person.
Yes. Remember, I said the state doesn't have the capacity and the moral authority to do it. I didn't say individuals didn't. And also, here's the other difference. The state isn't operating in self-defense. I believe in protecting life. I am shooting that person to protect life. The state is not doing it to protect life, right? Now you would argue, well, the state is because this person could be a crazy killer and could kill somebody else. Again, there's no evidence, historically, empirically, whatever, that the death penalty stops people from killing other people. Now you could argue, well, that person won't kill nobody else. True, but that could happen in secure confinement. That could happen in a prison. That could happen in a mental hospital. That could happen in a lot of places. You can make sure somebody can kill somebody without killing them yourself.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel that the concept of the death penalty keeps people from doing certain types of things in the same way.
But it doesn't. What I'm saying is it actually.
Well, I mean, if you look at the situation with police officers, the fact that they could kill people with zero repercussions psychologically gets them to kill more people. That's what I personally believe. You know,
right,
the data may say one thing or another, but the reality is that if you know you have no repercussions for doing certain types of activities, you are more than likely to do those types of activities based on human nature.
Wait, so you're saying that if you were in a room with no cameras, you could murder somebody and get away with it, you would?
I think a lot of people would definitely kill.
I'm asking with you.
A lot. People would definitely kill people they didn't like if they knew there was no repercussions for it.
Right. So, in certain circumstances,
look what happens in North Korea. When you look at like the leaders, you know, when you look at dictators in general that have no repercussions for their actions, look at the whole absolute power corrupts absolutely. Look at the type of things that happen in these types of places.
But you're willing to give the state absolute power to kill its citizens through the death penalty.
Well, it's not absolute power because, you know, even putting someone on death row takes decades.
Right. Because we get it wrong so much.
They stay on death row for decades until, a person doesn't get a trial, then get killed a month later. That never happens.
Well, thankfully, the Innocence Project estimates that as many as, I think the number is either 20 or 25% of people on death row might be innocent. Even knowing that the number could be that high, you're still okay with killing people?
I mean, I'm not familiar with that number. If you're saying that's what it is, I'd have to look into it.
Well, let me ask you, what margin of error would you be comfortable with?
I mean, obviously it would be zero.
Right, but you concede that it's impossible for the number to be zero, right?
It is impossible for the number to be zero.
So just by agreeing to the death penalty, you're conceding to a world where people who didn't do the crime are going to get executed.
I mean, it's an interesting point. I see where you're going with this, and I don't have a good answer for that type of thing. Because I mean, I agree with you to a certain degree that if one person gets killed who did not do it, you failed in the entire system. But that doesn't automatically exclude when you have people, you know, like the terrorists in Boston that blew up and maimed, you know, close to 100 people. When you have the Charleston shooter, when you have Timothy McVeigh, when you have just people who do horrific things, you know, I personally believe they should die, and that's my personal belief.
No, I get it. You have yet to make an argument for why. Your argument has been that it stops people from doing it, and I'm showing all the data. I mean, there's tons of data that shows that that's not true. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And in fact, there are studies that show that when people have intense punishments for things, they can be more likely to do it because I'll give you an example. Studies show that when daycares charge people like $10 a minute for being late, people are more likely to be late, not less. You know why? Because now you don't feel guilty for being late because there's a punishment. It's like, well, shit, I'm 15 minutes late, I'll just pay it. The person just wants to go home. So when you show up there 5 minutes later, you're like, yo, where you been? Like, you feel guilty, you rush to get there, you don't piss people off. But if they have a penalty, then you feel like you're paying. So if you're a suicide bomber and the state's gonna kill you, that's kind of the point. So it doesn't stop people from committing the initial crime. Also, if you have a mental illness and you go around on a killing spree, the threat of death isn't going to stop you because it's a mental illness.
Right. I mean, but there are specific laws where the death penalty is not enacted because the person is not competent to stand trial when you have a mental illness situation.
Do you think it's possible to be a serial killer and not have a mental illness?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it's possible to be a serial killer and not have a mental illness?
Yeah, I think it is.
See,
I think certain people just like killing. You know, I mean, just like certain people like hunting.
You don't think that's a mental illness?
No, I don't think so. I think that the humans are kind of barbaric in nature. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at historically, humans have killed each other. Has every person that's killed someone else have a mental illness?
No, we were talking specifically about killing sprees.
You know, are humans inherently violent?
When you're on a certain side of it, it makes complete sense. When you're on the other side of it, it doesn't make sense. And too often, we get it wrong. And so I think if you take a second and reflect on this, you'll realize why this doesn't make, right? You said that if one person dies that shouldn't die from the death penalty, it's probably a mistake. Mm-hmm. There's no moment in history where we haven't gotten the death penalty wrong. And there's no reason to believe that we would always have it foolproof. So that alone, to me, is an argument. And then the argument that it's a deterrent.
It's a strong argument. And it does cause me to kind of think about it, but I still believe in the death penalty.
It's blood.
But it's a very good point.
It's bloodlust. I think ultimately what you talked about, our desire for revenge, sometimes trumps our desire for justice. And if somebody killed my whole family, I'd want them to die too. Mm-hmm. I'd want revenge. I'm just not convinced that that's my best self. I'm not convinced that that's my most rational, my most sane, my most humane, my most fair, my most just. Shit, if you cut me off on the highway on a given day, I might want to blow your car. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the right time for me to make public policy. So with a step back, anyway, that's my death penalty stance.
What do you think about the whole situation?
Man, my point of view, man, I really feel like they tried to paint a bad picture on my brother and try to make him look like he was a hater. It was some envy, jealousy type shit, you know what I'm saying? And actuality, you know what I'm saying? Bro been having this shit, man. He been in the condo.
I got my hat on and I had my Coke bottles up under my hat. And I'm sitting at the dinner table like an asshole with the hat on, knowing she gonna tell me to take it off. And I'm just sitting there just gulping down, you know, in my zone. She said, take that goddamn hat off at the dinner table. I'm like, come on, Mom. Coke everywhere.